Hello, welcome to Unite Planet. I think we're live.
I think we're live.
Okay, now I'm going to send the link now to Bernardo, okay? So 1 second, just bear with me. If I talk more welcome to you about anything you wish, I can do that.
Well, what an absolute pleasure it is to be here on Unite Planet, and what a fantastic day we've had. So much so that I've got quite red and had to put a little bit of colour on my face to disguise. So I even look a bit pale now.
Right, I'm just going to link to Bernie. So hopefully now to someone to join in. Sorry about this. I do apologise about this, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm just doing what I need to do, and then we can go and start it off properly.
This is spirit playing with us, so we just have to smile.
Exactly. Now on to the video. Back again.
Hello.
Okay. So today, let's see what we're talking about spirituality.
Yes, I'm open to any questions. What I say to anybody, first and foremost, I'm Sue Gaskell. I'm a life coach. I have Sue's University of Life, Facebook and YouTube, where I talk about any subject. So I say to you, if you just want to ask any question, I have no idea what the question will be. I don't need to know. An open-ended question on any topic. And the first topic we're going to talk about is spirituality. So if you've got any questions around spirituality, whether you have any spiritual belief systems, whether you have a title like a Christian, a Buddha, anything at all, an atheist, it makes no difference whatsoever to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. So Paul's going to ask a few questions to start me off. And most importantly, I'm so happy to be here. This is where I was born and bred. I'm over from New Zealand, where I've been for 15 years, and here we are.
So, Sue, tell me what your feelings are. What is spirituality to you? What does it mean to you?
Okay, my journey has been, I've been to retreats, I've been on spiritual journeys, I've been with Andrew Cohen. I don't know if anyone has heard of Andrew Cohen, and some very learned, the Dalai Lama. I have been to church for 10 years as a Christian and followed all sorts of Hindu and different spiritual paths. And I went to church one day, and it's a little story, so sit back and relax. I went to church one day, and there was this lovely little old lady. And sometimes when she wasn't getting attention, she'd squeal or make a noise. And if I was sat near her, I'd just put my arm around her, and she'd look up at me and say, "You're an angel." And she would just be quiet. She just needed attention. To my dismay, we were in church and she was squealing, and they just took her out in a wheelchair. So I went to speak to the vicar. I was not a part of anything. I just went on my own. Spoke to the vicar and I said, "Can you tell me where the compassion was for that lady? She just needed some attention. She lives on her own." And he said, "I haven't got any answers." I said, "That's why I question your belief system, your religion, because it doesn't make sense to me." So that's when I had to really start looking at how I felt about a God that was going to punish, a God that was jealous. And so as much as I know there are some amazing faiths out there, and they all hopefully are doing the very best they can, a lot of them come from a place of control, power, and fear-based. And we have a split spiritual personality within the self. One's unconditional love, which we all are, pure soul, and the other is fear-based. So if you are following any sort of faith and you live your life in fear, then you are just in the personality of who you've come to this earth plane with. You're not in the actual soul journey that you're here to explore and grow.
Thank
So,
yeah.
any questions at all?
Yeah. So, in regards to we're here then, so we're here to learn and grow. So, do you think then we take these things on to our next life, or do you think how does that happen? Do you obviously you believe in reincarnation? Yeah?
I believe in reincarnation. I believe in many, many things. I've had experiences. In New Zealand, I work with many, many people now. It's only in the last 6 months. They are mediums, they're clairvoyants, they are healers. And some of them are still in the personality of a fear-based lifestyle. And so they do not come over as well as someone who speaks from the heart and from the soul, the essence of who we are. And your intention, whenever you do something, ask yourself, what is my intention? If your intention is pure love to make a difference on this earth, then you're on the soul journey of who you are. The soul is who we are. We come to this earth plane to learn our lessons, to evolve our soul. And so in between that, we come into the world and man takes over and starts telling us what we need to do and socializes us. So by the time we're 7, we've become unaware of who we were. And now we've got this journey to get that skin gone, the personality skin, and then begin the journey of the soul. The soul has different levels, and we are here to graduate to the next level. And there are so many different levels. So do I believe in reincarnation? Absolutely. Yeah. Do I believe that when we die, that's it? No, because the soul is, if you can imagine electricity, you see the results of electricity, and yet it's not possible to see it. You believe in it because it makes light. And so it is with the person we are and the soul of who we are. We come to this earth plane for a reason. We come to learn our lessons. And when we've learned our lessons and we've evolved and we've done the job we came here to do, then we leave this earth planet. Now that means some people say, I don't believe that. When you die, you die. Well, I know, because I've had experiences, that this is not the end. This is just a place where we're here to learn lessons. And if a child dies at 5 days old and everybody's so sad and saying it's wrong, it's not fair, that soul decided to come here for 5 days. And we celebrate that, and they go on their journey. It's us mortals that are here painfully grieving the loss, because we're lost. We're so scared of facing the pain, of feeling helpless, feeling embarrassed. We run a mile from pain, when if you face that pain, because they're just feelings, part of the human condition, and you don't judge them, then you can begin to find a place of awareness. Meditation is a fantastic thing to do. When you're in awareness, you literally say to yourself, are you in there? Hello? Are you in there? And of course people say, well, of course I am. I'm listening to you. So then you say, am I in there? Yes. Who's in there? Then you watch yourself listening to the story that you're telling yourself. That's the drama of the personality that you are here to learn, to get through. And once you get through that, you come to this place of awareness. So for instance, I'm sat here, my mind's not playing, there's nothing going on. I'm in the moment, and that mindful awareness takes you anywhere you need to go.
In regards to when you meditate, do you sometimes go out of body? Where do you go to? What do you think that is? Where is that?
When I don't know something, and that's really important when you're in this place and space, I don't talk in opinions. I don't give opinions. Opinions are in the human condition. So when you know, you know. So when you know something, then I know that I can go out of this body and it stretches, and there's a place where everything is beautiful. everything is just as you hoped it would be when you get out of your mindset and your drama. What I don't know is what's beyond. So it's no good pretending. You know, I get saddened by charlatans. I get saddened by people who want you to believe what they believe. Now, I'm not asking you to believe anything I believe. What I'm asking you to do is open up your mind, question your belief system. Is it yours? Is it somebody from your parents? And then start being curious. Because when you're curious and you go to the imagination of the child that you were before people disrupted everything, that's when you can begin to, you can fly, you can just go anywhere.
Yeah. As like teachers do, and sometimes parents do, it's like stop daydreaming, don't go. You know, it's like go back into the real world. You know, go.
Yeah.
It's so sad we break the spirit of children because that's the real places.
See, and that's what's wonderful. Paul's now feeding me, and that's what I ask you to do: ask a question, because that's exactly what happens from the moment of conception. The people who I'm involved with, and the jury's out on a couple of things with me. They believe that we made a decision to choose our parents when we came here. We came here in the condition we are in, with whatever physical or mental problems we have, to resolve them, because that's our learning here on earth, to get us to the next dimension. So when you say that to me, Paul, then I've only got to just listen to somebody for 1 minute, and I can tell you if you are riddled with guilt, I can tell you if you're riddled with fear, I can tell you if you feel inferior, and I can tell you how scared you are of your emotions that you've been told as a little one that was wrong. And unfortunately, we've grown up in a belief system where there's good, bad, right, wrong, emotions, feelings, and there isn't. They just are feelings. And have you ever met a child that didn't let you know how they felt if they were angry when they were little? They scream. And what they want is attention. They want to feel safe. Well, we've stopped learning how to feel safe within the self, and we've separated ourselves from the pure, unconditional, loving self. And what we have to do is understand that the fear that we live our lives in, once you can resolve that and make sense of it and become aware, I'm mindful as we're speaking, I'm meditating as we're speaking, and it doesn't come on its own because it's quite lonely then. You get in touch with being lonely, watching the way other people behave, and they're behaving as though that was their life in their dysfunctionalness, which leads me on to being dysfunctional. We have dysfunctions, we have addictions, because that stops us going into this place where we find out who we are. It stops us facing the pain that happened when we were traumatized as children, and we're still traumatized. So there's where anxiety starts. It's a minefield that we're talking about. So any questions are...
please put questions down, because I feel like I've got questions coming through on my phone here from my friends on the other planet. Unfortunately, Johnny and Bernie was going to go on live with us, but unfortunately, through gremlins or my intelligence with technology, it's not happened. So it's just me and Sue tonight.
It's spirit playing games.
But Bernie and Johnny, also please put your questions down, and then we'll go from there, please. All right.
We have a question now.
We have a question there. Why are children so naive if the soul is gaining wisdom with each incarnation?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Why are children so naive if the soul is gaining wisdom with each incarnation?
Okay, so that's your question. I don't know your name, and okay, I'd like to return the question, because it's your question, and ask what your thoughts are around that. So the question is, I'll put my glasses on because I'm going to read it myself. Thank you for that, Paul. Okay, why are children so naive if the soul is gaining wisdom with each incarnation? A child is full of innocence, is full of awareness. They are vulnerable and they're helpless. And then very quickly, the second we're born, this is my understanding, that little child starts crying. And mum doesn't know, or dad or grandma doesn't know if the child wants feeding, if there's something that's startled them, doesn't know if there's an itch or something. So what we do is feed them. And what happens is we then start making them jump. When they're excited about something, we make them jump, they become scared. So they go out of their innocence and naivety into the conditioned child, which is what we become. 0 to 7, and then 7 to 14, 14 to 21, 21 to 28. Just like the seasons, there is a cycle of life. And it's then that we start questioning everything and saying, is that my belief, or is that what mum told me, what dad told me? And that's when we then go back to that innocent child, when we can then start evolving and growing within the soul, the essence of who we are. And the intention, when you ask a question, anybody, what's the intention with asking a question? Is it because you're curious, because you genuinely are on this journey yourself? Or is it just, what's the intention? Because if a question's asked in fear and not love, then you're not going to evolve your soul, because the soul is the mothership. The soul only knows love, unconditional love. And when you go off with your fears in your little boat, what we're trying to do is get steering back and follow the unconditional love that was ours before we came onto this planet.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
What life lessons do I take to the next life then? Well, that's, you see, these questions are interesting.
Very good one. Thank you very much.
What life lessons do I take to the next life then? Are you asking me what life lessons you take? That's a question you need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, because you're asking me something that I wouldn't dream of knowing, because I don't know you. So you tell us what life lessons you think that you'll be taking to the next life. And what are you here to learn? Because that's your journey. We're all on our own spiritual journey. And we have guides. We all have guides that people have passed to the next level. Those people with unconditional love are all around us, and we can call on them. I make a simple request every morning, and that is this: help me to have the right intention, right being from a place of love, to evolve my spirit and soul, and to make sure that everything I do is something I can learn from, and to be able to help other people, support them in their journey. Thank you. I send that out to the universe, and then I accept and say thank you. And then there's clues all around. There's people, things. There's no such thing as coincidence.
Is that the Daneman? Have you ever heard of the Daneman?
I'm not sure.
There's one that's like steering you, helping you to get to.
Okay.
Is that what is that titled as?
Okay. No, that's Gary Zerkoff. Gary Zerkoff is an amazing spiritual gentleman. You'll find his work on YouTube. He put a book together called The Seat of the Soul.
Right.
And it was a time when Oprah Winfrey was very much learning and on her journey. And she read this book, and she said it's a time when there was telephone directories. You remember them? So she phoned this gentleman. Yes. And she phoned this gentleman, and he said, hi. So she said, oh, it's Oprah Winfrey. I said, who's that? So she said, Oprah. And he said, oh, and do I know you? And the Oprah Winfrey Show. And he had never heard of her. So she was intrigued and brought him on the show. And because she asked him at a time when they were only just beginning to make any sense of spirituality within the self, can you say it in a way that people will understand? So it came from him. And this idea of the mothership, was when there was a fleet of ships and the mothership was the master in charge, the person who was guiding everybody. And if you followed the fleet of ships, we're following the love trail, the analogy.
Right.
And I just thought when he said we're all bobbing around with our fears, thinking we know what's best, so we try and control things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the issue. This planet was here before you came or I.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be here when we've gone on our next part of our travels. And what we try and do is make it fit into what we believe, because we're controlling, because we're scared, we're controlling, because we've had traumas. And those things, that's the work I do. I help people, I support people with their inner child growth in trauma, help them to understand that they don't need to carry on feeling traumatized. And inner child work for each and every one of us as we come out of this, before we get to the place of the spirituality and the understanding of our soul, then that work is a stepping stone, I call it. And then you can explode all that and come to this place in awareness, which, as I say, yoga, there's so many different things. Walking the dog, just quietly with no distractions, can put you into your place of being aware. Then you say, is there anybody in there? And you have a listen to what your chatterbox is saying. And that's with us 24 hours, non-stop, not going to go away. So you're in the conscious or the subconscious.
So this is Bernie from I Like to Know the Truth. And it says, when our soul comes down from a higher dimension, why do we then spend the rest of our human lives trying to remember what we came here for, when life seems to be handicapping us?
Interesting comment. I actually don't. I don't wonder why I came here. I don't go into any of that. I just know now. You see the word, I just know. And I didn't always know. I mean, I was on the journey. My life's been pretty hell. And, you know, if anybody was going to choose a lifestyle the way I have, well, it just makes me wonder, if I ever think about it, what on earth would make me want this journey? And people ask me, well, you know, what was your journey like? And very, very briefly, I was born on my mum's living room floor, breech birth with my grandma and eldest brother in attendance. I'm 72, so you can go back to how that must have been. So can you imagine the traumatic way I came into this earth, onto this earth, and one of 11 children. And I always blame myself. Everything was my fault. I've always been scared of living, scared of dying, scared of every person I ever met, terrified, traumatized from my different experiences. So I've learned through that, and I've learned that there's nothing secure. The phone could go now and something could happen. So, you know, be in the moment, enjoy your life. You know, I don't even think about, I know it's happened and I understand it and I discuss it happily. That was then, this is now. So we either live in the moment, which is what we're doing, and it's a joy to have this conversation, or we're in our mind looking at the clock, looking at the future, worry, 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 or we're in the past with all of our traumas. And the most important thing is, you really can, now in this day and age more than ever, seek the help of somebody who knows, because they've been through things, how to help you to understand and support you as you get on your journey back onto the path. So I actually don't even know if we come down from a higher dimension. We come onto this earth plane because we're here to evolve our soul. And there's so many different levels we're all on. And I wouldn't be I'm not a clever person. I just tell the truth from a place of love. So nobody can challenge what I'm saying from a place of love, because it's how I feel. And our feelings are so important. And I'm not having a go at anybody else. I'm not asking you to believe what I believe. I just know that now I'm comfortable with all the pieces of my jigsaw. I'm on the journey. And the journey is to continue to look at your intuition, look at your motive. Every time you open your mouth, what's the reason for asking the question? Is it from a place of love? Is it because you're scared? Is it because you feel inferior? Is it because you feel envious or jealous and all of these horrible things that get us all knotted up in the human condition? Whereas if you just own the feeling and say, well, my friend, she was going out this morning and she was going to town, and I was having the afternoon to myself, happily sunbathing. And she said, I'm tired. I wished I wasn't going out. So I said, so you feel a little bit envious? She said, yes. And then a bit later on, she said something, and I said, now I feel a bit envious. It's not an issue. It's not remotely an issue, a problem. You're not envious of the person. You have a feeling that when we were children, we were told it was wrong. So we didn't have that feeling because we'd be in trouble. And the people around us, our very existence depended on them being all right with us. So, there's so much more to it than simple.
Mm-hmm. So Don Tomac says, what are the experiences that have led you to now?
Okay, it's been a long journey. I had a really massive breakdown. Because I felt responsible for everyone's feelings because of some traumas that I'd gone through. I lost my parents before I was out my teens. My father collapsed on me at 15. And there's so many things, and that's not poor on me. You asked me a question, I'm giving you factual comments. So when I had the breakdown, it was because I was looking after everybody. I felt responsible. That night, riding off in the night, my father had collapsed on me, and it was dark, and I was on the bike going to a house. I didn't know where it was to find my sister. Mum, hysterical at home. I was 15. The man who was the absolute love of my life died a few hours later. So that was so traumatic. I went to work the next day and somebody found out and said, isn't she brave? And I started being brave for 30 years. I felt so helpless when my dad collapsed on me. I felt so helpless and scared in the night because the night scared me. And then he died. And I needed him. And so what happened next was a series of events that I thought, I must look after everybody. I mustn't ever feel like that again. I must help people, the people that were angry with me. I mustn't ever evoke their anger. I became a caretaker. And so 30 years, married, 3 beautiful children, a business. Nobody has a clue. I didn't know then that the breakdown would lead to me having a realization. And it was simple. Not everyone was as kind and giving and loving as me. I didn't know that. It was the biggest life-changing moment I've ever had. When I found out that not everybody cared the way I did. So once I started investigating and questioning and started realizing that I looked after everybody else, that's why I had the breakdown on every level. I had anorexia, bulimia, an eating disorder, so many things, because I was so scared I had to try and control things, which was an impossibility. I wanted everyone to be happy, another impossibility. And that's when I found out I was trying to be perfect, not human, perfect. So that's just a little bit of where I began the journey, and that was in 1991.
This is Sue's book. It's going back front on my camera here, but it says "Eating Your Words," and this is the second edition.
Second edition,
yeah.
Yes.
So this is Sue's book, yeah. So where is it? You can get it from Amazon.
Amazon, yes. Sue Gaskell, "Eating Your Words." You'll find it either in ebook or paperback version.
Mm-hmm.
And see that. Thank you, Paul. That leads me to what did I write this book for? I've written 3 books. It's called Eating Your Words. Yeah. When I was 20, I'd had my second child. And for some bizarre reason, it was only a few weeks later, I had one of these at-home parties where I don't know if it was Tupperware or clothes. And my sister, one of my eldest sisters, the only one who wasn't able to have children, she came. And this was a great event. Now, don't forget, at this stage, I'm very insecure. I want everyone's approval, especially all my older sisters. She knocked at the door and she said, Susan, haven't you put weight on? I'd just had a baby. Now, they made fun of me all night, lightheartedly. It was too late. Those words, eating your words, that's the title of the book. It went straight in my heart. That led me to the next day thinking there was something wrong with me. An eating disorder lasting 30 odd years, one sentence. So imagine if you're living a life where somebody said something to you and therefore you're not following your dream, you're not being your creative self, you're not doing what you were meant to do because you're too busy, scared or unsure. And eating your words is just a reflection of the many, many times each one of us have been told something. You can't sing for peanuts. You never even try to. So you have to investigate everything to make sure that you know who you are outside of all the roles you play on this earth.
You also wrote another one over here, which is very important.
Oh, I've brought this to show Paul.
Yeah.
A little story. You can see the size of this one, and this one has pictures in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's my third book. The second book is about my adventures, just adventures, talking about life, helping people to see that you have to go out on your own. The amount of people that say, oh, I'd love to go to the pictures. And I just say, oh, okay, what stops you? Oh, I'm not going on my own. Well, I go all over the world on my own, have done for a long time. The third book, which Paul just lifted up, I'm going to see my publisher while I'm here because it is my only copy. And that was when I found out that my second husband, Steve, we'd been married a short time, and he was diagnosed with motor neurone disease. Now, I thought I was safe because he was 9 years younger than me. Now, you can see I've got to have a quirky sense of humour. Motor neurone disease is terminal. So the bucket list was 3 months to come to England. So we came for 3 months. So that's the first part of the book. The second part of the book is me coming to terms, acknowledging I would never get over losing Steve, because at that stage I hadn't got the spiritual awareness I have now. It was beginning then because Steve and I talked a lot about stuff. And so then the third part, and I've decided to come out of retirement. The third part is the language of fear. Shouldn't, can't, buts. Those are words you're feeding your fear with. They're the language of spiritual fear, and it's a man-made blame, shame, guilt, control, punishment, power. Whereas the language of love, unconditional love, is wisdom, understanding, and it's where the wisdom arises, which is in every one of us once we clear our clutter. So that's what that book's about. Yeah. So I do lives, and I'm going to just nip this one if that's okay. I do lives, and we here on this platform, I do everything I do on here free, and I'm going back and I'm going to start earning a living. So there's a little shop on my website where people can buy my services, Skype, one-to-one coaching, an hour with me, so long as I can see you, because body language, I can read you. I know what's going off within you. And I'm like an emotional doctor without anesthetic. You have to face that pain and then you grow and you move forward. And so when we do live shows, it's all ad lib. You have no idea how much we had to do to get us together here. And we just have to smile. We laugh at ourselves. We have to learn not to take ourselves so seriously and take things personally, because when we take it personally, it's that story that we've fed into, the fear again and the blame and the shame. Whereas, nobody died. And if they did, they've graduated to the next level. And sure, we are in grief and we hurt. It's part of the journey, your journey. There is never any time when it's awful because there's a bit of rain around. Listen to the words you say. And that's what I say. I teach when people are ready. It's like Sue's University of Life is the University of Life from a place of love, that you can unlearn some of the words you use. Don't use can't. Don't use but. And if you ask me why, I'll tell you. If you don't ask, I won't. So that's a question you can ask me. That's me being a bit provocative, because it is hard also doing lives. And people have told me over the years, so we don't want to interrupt what you're saying, because what you're saying is so relevant. It's like ding, 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 ding. And then I want to be able to answer anything that you want to know. So the spiritual journey, the soul journey, the essence of who we are, we come to this earth plane, we become a human being doing, and then we've got to shed that skin like a snake sheds its skin to get back to where we were. And some people never shed the skin, because you'll hear people in, collecting their, I call it my wages, the old age pension, and they're still arguing, husband and wives. Mm-hmm. One's a child in the relationship and one's a parent. Neither of them have grown to this awareness, which is emotional maturity in an adult sense. So it's huge, the topic, and self-esteem and dysfunctions, and just ask a question, or maybe Paul can think of another question.
Yeah, I can think of my question. I've got lots in my head. Yeah, the thing that because I've known Sue for a long time, and Sue's I was in my 20s, so I came to see Sue, and over that period of time, I learned a lot about self-awareness, and I'd like Sue to explore what self-awareness is for you.
Okay. It's an interesting question. Self-awareness is to be aware of the self. And people say, oh, well, that's me, that's my personality, and they go with the star signs. And I applaud the star signs. I get all of that. Yes, we're born in the house and the planet, and yes, we're all Virgos or Aquarius for a reason. And people say, that's my personality. No, that was your personal reality when you were little. And from that, you either had parents or teachers that fed you unconditional love, explained things, and yes, tough love was necessary, and they disciplined you. You learned there were consequences. That's about not even 1% of the population. And then in the other way, our self-esteem was damaged by the humiliation and the way people talked to us. So we walked around with all this going off inside. And as I looked at my self-esteem, I had none. And then when I realized I had a little bit of self-esteem, you're going through this realization, you're looking at your journey. The self-esteem that I had was because I helped people. I made myself so important because my brothers either side didn't want me to play with them. So I became the ball girl. So I was doing something. So I wasn't invisible. So then I learned to be a caretaker. And when I did things for people, then they'd feed me crumbs of comfort that fed my low self-esteem. So that's why people go through, and doctors and nurses and lawyers and all sorts of people, they've got this huge authority figure. Nobody questions it. Deep down, a self-esteem is pretty low in most people. And I did a program on Radio Derby for many, many months about self-esteem, and it was intriguing. And then I decided for myself, I didn't want any self-esteem, because any self-esteem you got, you had to feed it to get it back. It was given and taken away. So then I found a better way of doing it, which was to take care of myself. It's not self-centered. The self-center of the human condition is on automatic pilot. It's we do the same thing. I'm doing this because I learned to do this. So a lot of it is necessary. And so we're on automatic pilot, and we think something, we feel, and we act it out. Familiar slippers, we all like the same familiar thing because we're scared of stepping out of our comfort zone. So I stepped out of that, and I've never looked back. I can get knocked around, trust me. Your heart's a very delicate machine. It's a machine all of its own. And your heart gets broken and shattered and damaged and hurt. If you become your own best friend, which is the inner child work I do, then you're never alone, and you start giving your inner child what you didn't get when you were growing up. So self-esteem is the way you esteem yourself. And most people, if you fall down, what do? You look to see if anybody's looking. You say you fool. Never would I say those words to my little girl ever again. I never would put her down. And here's a nice one. You know, at school we got a tick and we got a cross if we got it wrong. From now on, the tick is well done. That's your gift to yourself. And the cross is a kiss for learning to do it better and for having a go.
Yeah.
The only time you ever fail, you're built on a failure, you've succeeded at failing if you're in fear all the time. And the only time you really fail is if you don't understand that the only person that needs to understand you is you. Through all that, then you can get on with your life. That's okay.
Like that. Yeah, I love that you look together. Yes. I like that. I've got something in my head now. That's fun.
Good. That's good.
Right then, so we've got another question. Tor Engen says, can your astral path change based on your action in this life? Like you could select one option that would made your life easy, but instead choose another option that creates suffering and difficulties.
Okay. It's an interesting comment, and I love the honesty of you. Thank you, all of you, for your questions. And when you look back on your journey, you can say, I'd have done this differently. And if you'd have done it differently, you would have changed the whole experience that you came here for. So instead of thinking I could have done that differently, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? You've not made a mistake. There's an opportunity to learn. So when somebody, and again, I really don't mind, let me just say that as well. I know that when people say, I don't care what others say, they're still in their ego, because that's just a bravado. It's a defense mechanism. And what I say is, I don't mind what people think, because they're going to think it anyway. And so long as I know, and I know my intention is genuine or not, because we can, fall into the little boat. So we're here on a journey of learning. And if you can stay on that path, knowing that when you're ready, you will just go out of your body and just go on graduating to the next level, then everything changes, because you're not looking to be right and wrong. You're not trying to change something. It's not going to change anything. It's already happened. It's already happened. And when you have this pure love and you send out your intention to the universe, prayer, whatever denomination you follow, absolutely wonderful. Just remember to look if your intention is to follow that because you genuinely have a pure loving energy in you. We're all pure energy. Or if you're following that because it's a crutch, or because you're scared not to do it, being a good girl and boy, you need to make sure that you get into heaven. And well, if you start realizing that this is heaven, heaven is when you really feel the energy of pure unconditional love. And that when whatever you think, whatever you imagine, get to your creativity, the universe is waiting to give you exactly what you want. This pure unconditional love, it's look at me. It's just there. And when I look at my suffering, Eckhart Tolle, a great man to go on YouTube, Eckhart Tolle. And he says, when he realized that he was hurting because of his experiences back then, and that he realized then he added suffering to the hurt by trying to fix it or to change it, everything changed for him, because he said, I faced the pain. And that's what I've done. Because recently, even while I've gotten here in England, my hometown, I had the most, let me go in the old-fashioned talking, disagreeable email from somebody who was very thoughtless and unkind in the things that was said. And it knocked me, it threw me. I'd just arrived after quite a difficult journey. And for a few days, I am so blessed to have wonderful friends that listen. They don't try and fix me. They don't say, don't do this. How could that person do that? They just allow me to be on my journey and support me. And it took me a few days. It was blindsided, an expectation just taken away, no control. So I had to get in touch with helplessness. I had to get in touch with feeling angry. I had to get in touch with feeling disappointed. I had to get in touch with, what a shame that somebody would want to dump their rubbish at my door because they were struggling with not facing their own inner pain. And so I let that person go with love. I do not respond. I understand they're on their journey. I wish them all the love in the world. And I understand and say, what can I learn from it? Because nobody does anything to us unless we allow it. And that's a really most important key to life. Isn't it? High five.
Actually, Bernie says give you a big hug, by the way.
Oh my goodness.
This is from Bernie.
Oh, thank you, Bernie. That's gorgeous. I hope to meet you in person. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, he's from.
It's in the Birmingham area.
So we'll arrange something. I think Bernie's online still, so.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
If you have any more questions at all, just imagine you're the only person listening to this. If something we have said or other people have asked has rung a bell of truth for you, even if it's scary, I want you to imagine I'm speaking just to you. And energy, vibration, the whole of the spirits are asking you to start looking and getting on your journey. And if you feel like you're depressed and you've thought of suicide, I've been there, I've tried it. You know, it's okay to talk to people who are real, and that's me, because we don't judge and we have compassion. We don't have sympathy. Sympathy is poor on me's. Sympathy is pity pot. Sympathy is blame, shame. Those are the words you need to forget. So if something's rang a bell of truth for you, then talking is so important. And believe it or not, I have got the best listening skills in the world. It's amazing for me to sit and just listen while you just tell your story. And that's the topic. Now I can see and hear the issue. Mm-hmm. And the issue is to do with your feelings. Your feelings are the drivers of your car. Your feelings are everything. And if we don't value them, and we expect other people to value them, and we want other people to respect us, and we're not respecting ourselves because we've not looked inside, isn't going to happen. Which leads me on to another thing about being attached to people, unless you want to just ask me something.
In my experiences with you, Sue, I knew one special lady we was eventually into like not a single session with you. I went into a group session with you.
Yeah.
I met lovely people there in that group. And one particular lady, and I won't name her name,
no.
But she had asthma.
Okay.
And but her asthma, as she talked about it more, her issues, it actually vanished. So, our emotions affect.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Louise Hay is another lovely lady for you to go on YouTube. She died, passed over, died to the earth plane when she was 91, which is about a year ago. And she had breast cancer, and she wanted to understand and didn't want this to come back again. So she started looking into feelings and looking into how you talk to yourself. So affirmations and all the things that most of us know quite a bit about now. So she did an A to Z of feelings and what illnesses. So asthma was lack of love of the self and suppressed crying. So when people come and talk to me, grown men, I mean, thank goodness grown men, the tears flow. And that is so important because men, they're given such a hard press. And women have almost reverse rolled and using men and, treating men the way they were treated. And so asthma, I can give you a couple of examples. Again, a gentleman came to me on recommendation. It was 20 years ago. And he knew everything. He was in business and he was there because they were going to have a child, and he'd got a little bit of an anger problem, which he didn't want to keep, obviously. So his wife and mum-in-law had been to me and recommended. Halfway into the session, I just said to him, I don't think there's any point in you staying. Now, my heart's racing, my adrenaline's going. That's what that feeling is, because I'm scared. Because I'm now going to tell this huge, big man, I'm going to pass back. He's been on all the courses. He knows everything. He's manipulative. He's a control freak. And I'm now going to tell him, you might as well go because there's nothing I can do to help you. Well, he was most disconcerted. And I said, well, you won't listen. I said, your ego's in. You've got an answer for everything. And that's not, it's okay. You carry on being you. You're a lovely guy and you won't resolve your issues, because you're running away from something that hurts. So I said to him, so how old do you feel? And he just burst into tears. You see, now I've connected with the child. We get the story and that stays there, even though you don't know him. And then within an hour, he's on his way. He came once more, happier ever after, because he understood how to resolve the issue that happened when he was younger. So there's so much of the stuff we're carrying around that, I mean, we carry out, we come onto this earth plane, carrying the shame of generations past. You might be experiencing things that you can think, well, I'm a really decent person. I don't understand this. You might be carrying the shame of generations past. It's amazing. And it's something for all of us to think about.
Another question, and actually this one is from Johnny from Unite Planet.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Johnny. Johnny said, just a thought, is our ego like our false self? Oh, and sorry, I couldn't be with you. You're both looking great, and big love to you both. Warm hugs to Sue. Your words really impact me. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Johnny.
That's wonderful. And we could share a few stories. We might do that another time. We'll leave that there. Our ego is our false sense of self. I'll say it again. Our ego is a false sense of self in the conscious level. And subconsciously, when we dream, the dreams are there to bring it onto the conscious level. And if we remember and write it down, because symbolically, then your subconscious is trying to bring it to the conscious level. So yes, a lot of people, it's really hard for me, I'll be honest with you, it's really hard. Well, I'm always honest. It's really tough when I just meet somebody, and because of what I know, I have to remind myself not to switch into it, because people say I'm psychic, people say whatever they want to. I don't care what title they want to give me, I just know stuff. And so it's really, really hard when I meet people and I know full well why they're suffering, why they're struggling, why they're stressed. And if they're not ready, I have to remind myself that they don't know what I know about them. So this false sense of self, that is because by the time we're 7, let's go for 7. It's a nice. Scientists are proving this now. I've known stuff for a long time, and I'm actually now up to date with stuff I knew. Mm-hmm. I knew that sugar was a poison. I knew that sugar was an addiction. I knew that it was the biggest killer. And I do run slimming clubs online, and that's another little string to my bow. And I was doing a session on one of my groups, and one of the girls who used to come to me 30 years ago said, "Sue, you've changed so much. If only you'd have been doing this then." And I said, "Sweetheart," and this is a dear friend who I came home, and the next day I had to go to her celebration of her life. I thought I'd see her, and she died just before I came over. I said, "Sweetheart, I'm using exactly the same quiz and talk that I did then." She said, "We weren't ready." So I'm delighted to say I'm now in touch with what the scientists have proven. And the scientists now know it's not necessarily the DNA, it's our feeling, psychological memory, and our upbringing that we need to look at. And once we can free ourselves from all the burden by being honest and telling ourselves the truth and risking getting in touch with those feelings that we really run a mile from, that's when we can go from the false sense of self, which it's where ego is, it's where opinions are, where right and wrong is, and you know you're right because you justify it with your guilt and everything else. Come away from that, and you never have to argue again. People say, "Don't be ridiculous," and I'll say, "Oh, okay. So what do you want to argue about?" "Oh, you can't, it's just your opinion." I'll say, "Oh, okay. So that's all okay." And there was a guy in a group I go to, philosophy. They're all way older than me. I'm a spring chick, and they've been politicians and all sorts. Oh. And one of the MPs, he said, "I hold my hands up, I give up, Sue." And I said, "Why?" He said, "I've been trying to trick you, and so I could say, there you are, that's your opinion." And he said, "It's not possible, because I don't talk from opinions. I speak from this pure, unconditional love that we all have, which you are following that, and your soul is growing now, so that then when you move to the next level, you've evolved, and you've learnt your earth lessons. I don't want to come back here as Sue Gaskell Barlow. No, thank you." Is there?
We got lots of questions from this.
Really?
We've got a like as well, so keep getting thumbs up, please, for this one. It'd be quite good, and let people know about how good it is, please. Right, so we've got preliminal. I can't get that one without my preliminal. Anyway, that's a minimum. Many are experiencing a phenomena. That's another word I can't say, and of parallel Earths. Where each version is slightly different. I shifted here from the edge of Sagittarius arm. Is there a spirit purpose of this? Did I die?
I'm going to put my glasses on.
I think you're going to read that one.
No, you did it absolutely, probably far better than me. I'm not even going to read it out. Right. Would you like to all just do the 16-second breath? 16-second breath is you breathe in for 4 seconds. You hold the breath for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, and you hold for 4 seconds. Now, if you're doing this, you're not doing any good. When you breathe and you hold, you're making space inside for more positive, beautiful, loving energy, and you're letting go of any negative, and you're focusing on the breath. So if you want to do that for the next 16-second breath, and just at your own pace, I'm just going to read this question. I haven't got a clue. I love it when I don't know. I haven't got a clue, and that's why you instantly know. You either know or you don't. When you know something, You sit behind the wheel of a car, you don't know how to drive the car. You don't know how to drive the car. Now, go away, learn to drive, sit behind the wheel of a car. Can you then not know how to drive the car? No, it's not possible, because you know. It's the same with this awareness. It's the same with your individual journey. And when I say I don't know, I'd love to see if you've got, what thoughts you've got about that. Because did you die? Have you got anything to imagine you did? What makes you think that? I'm just curious. It's lovely, and it's worth pursuing. And if we were in a conversation, half an hour later, we'd both come out a lot wiser. We'd be learning stuff.
I'd like to know the truth. So it's Bernie. Oh, no, but it's not. It says, "Hi, guys. Alison here. I never dream. I don't think I have an ego. Are egos and dreams connected to each other?"
An interesting question. Let me just have a look at that.
Hi, Alison.
Oh,
Hi, Alison. I love Alison. She's
awesome. And when we want to know the truth, remember I said earlier, look at your intention. What's your intention for wanting to know the truth? Is it because you want to know the truth for your own evolving and growth, your personal journey, and your soul journey? Or is it because you want to know in the ego so that you can then pass it on to other people? So the question is, the comment is, I don't think I have an ego. This is my honest response. An ego is incredibly necessary. Because you remember I said earlier again that when we were tiny, helpless babies, we had to learn. We lift a hand up, we had to learn. So that's ego, and that's automatic pilot. So we need that. And some people have a super inflated ego, which I think might be what you're saying. And are egos and dreams connected to each other? Again, this is my interpretation. I've always, as long as I can remember, written down, if I can remember a dream. Most of what I've learned is self-taught, because I wanted to know what made me tick. I wanted to be the best version of me, and that's what I hope for all of you. So for me, dreams are symbolic. And my dream ongoing, when I do dream, is I'm trying to find somewhere. And I'm floating through all these suitcases and all this and bodies. It's like I'm going through a time tunnel. And when I wake up, and if I didn't wake up, then I would have died. And it's not, no longer is it a panic now. It's almost an interesting part. So I say to myself, what is symbolic? If my daughter, I have a daughter of 53, and she's still a child. So the child is the symbolic child within me. So the child within me, there's something for her to learn. It's an ongoing journey. Nobody gets there. You're already where you need to be. You just need to clear your clutter. So you're already where you need to be, where you came in the first place. So I would say that the subconscious mind, ego, is connected to the dreams, because it's trying to teach us to get to the conscious level. And when you're in the conscious level, awakening awareness begins, and that's when you can begin to evolve. That's my understanding. And, you know, please, if there's something there that you want to ask another question, just jot it down.
And the gentleman or lady says from preliminal again. The one I can't say. It's a good one. I like that. I can't say paranormal either sometimes when I'm nervous. The reality shift is believed to caused by CERN particle collider.
Well, that's a wonderful bit of information. Okay. I'm curious and fascinated and always interested. And you've written something else. So
So I started seeing the changes when I came out of the hospital in February in 2016. The geography is different here, and there is changes to anatomy and history. Example, no country of Mongolia, where I'm from.
I'm hoping you write in a bit more.
Yeah.
So, example, no country of Mongolia, where I'm from. So that little last bit, I'm not quite understanding. I get what you're saying. I understand. We've all got, I mean, we've got different names. We've got different habits. We've got different cultures. And that's what we've been brought up into in our human conditioning. In reality, I don't mind who it is. And if we don't speak a language, there's only one true language for all of us, and it's the language of love, with the intention to be kind, with the intention of caring. And this caring ability, it has to be from the heart and from the soul, and not just because as children we learn to be caretakers. These are all the things that we've learned to do. It's not who we are. That's back to Johnny. It's a false sense of self. I do a talk, and it's like, imagine a tree, and you've got roots in the ground, then the trunk, and then you've got the new growth. And the roots in the ground, they've all got different sayings, like a people pleaser, wanting approval, or a caretaker, roles that we play. And those are in the ground. By the time we're 7, we are acting that out. From 7 to, moving on. And then the trunk, we've got the environment that affects how we deal with people. And then we've got the tree, which starts off almost bare, and then new blossom, new beginnings. And your life is like a chapter, a book. So we have new beginnings, and see that. Some people are in your life for a season, a brief encounter, some for a lifetime. And when they go, we suffer feelings of rejection or abandonment issues. And that's to do with our birthing and how we learn to be. Because I never, ever feel rejected now. I never feel abandoned, because I'm my own best friend on this earth journey as I'm evolving and growing. And, at its worst for me, when there were only telephones, I might phone you. You lived in another country. You didn't know I was phoning. And I thought, I had a feeling, now I look back, of being left, rejected and abandoned. Sometimes when you think back, you wonder how you've survived, and yet we have. We're fantastic. Do you know that? We're fantastic, each and every one of us.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's another.
Yeah. And it's still preliminary. Sorry, I can't say your name. That area was all part of China in the earth I was on. And there are drastic geography changes all over the globe. JFK had 4 in the car, but in reality, it was always 6 people in the car. So it's almost like the what's it called? Like changes of realities. Like is it butterfly effect or something? Like maybe. Anyway, but thank you, Sue, and you're not planet. Oh, you're more than welcome, and glad you're here.
And thank you for your information, because it's absolutely.
Mandela effect. Thank you, thank you, Bernie. Yeah, I forgot about that butterfly effect. Mandela effect. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. You see, that's something. I go on YouTube and I search things. I want to know, and I can read a book and read it again and read it again. I write comments down until I understand it. And once I understand it, that's when I feel that I can present it to you. Because as you see, I don't have writing, I don't have props, I just have me. And once you can explain something and you don't hesitate, you just know, you're comfortable in your own skin, that's when you know you've come to this place of its wisdom. Wisdom arises. And it's people say, if only I'd have known this and that before. Well, that's just the way it is. And we did know when we were tiny babies. It was taken away from us by people who thought they know better. Control.
Yeah. So there's 1 or 2 questions over here already, but can I just ask one question as well from as we go on? Do you feel that there's some kind of effect on us as a human race to keep us in a way of anger, and really keeping us like not uniting? That's why we're about Unite Planet. I just feel like sometimes there's like an energy or something trying to keep us like not connecting to each other, keep us separated. Do you feel that as well, or do you think can we eventually change it? Have we got the will as a species to make us better?
For me, again, this is my understanding from this place, and that is that we are pure energy, all of us. We are pure energy, and there is dark matter, and dark matter is what you're talking about, and that is fear as we know it. And whenever we're living in fear, and it's a very powerful energy, it's a very powerful energy, and there are people on this earthly plane that want to take control and believe that their religion is the only one. And if they were doing what they did with an intention to love, then I would say yes. The opposite of love is fear in the spiritual realm. The opposite of love is hate in the human condition. So fear, you know, the old stories, we've had all these, you know, the dragon and the fear, the good over evil. Then evil, if we're going to say, is this energy that I sometimes have as a, for the next generation, I have great concerns. We really have to think about the planet. We have to think about and take responsibility for everything we do. And we're not brilliant at that. Some are better than others. Some people take it to such a degree that it becomes a passion and then an obsession, and they then hurt other people, the very thing we're trying to stop. So I think we've got a lot to do, all of us. And when you open your mouth to say something, ask yourself, is what I'm going to say helpful or harmful? Is what I'm going to say kind? Is what I'm going to say going to make a difference in this person's life? And if it's tough love, you can take a risk. I take many risks, and people say, nobody would ever, ever say that to me and get away with it. There's something about you, Sue. And I say, what is it? And they say, it's because I know you're telling the truth and you genuinely care. And that's it in a nutshell. Now, I'm the messenger, and sometimes people shoot the messenger, as I told my little story a few minutes ago. And it does hurt the heart, because you genuinely see the good in people, and you know this dark energies around, this dysfunctional behavior that they use in order to protect themselves against an inner fear that they are scared of owning. That's a bit of a mouthful. See, if you asked me to say that again, I wouldn't be able to, because it just is like, it's just free flowing. Yeah. So if that makes any sense, the question then for all of us is, what can we do? Well, you can share this live. You can understand that we genuinely want to make a difference. It's not from any position of ulterior motive, it's genuine. So share and like lives, subscribe to, you know, our YouTubes. And if you don't watch any of them, your subscribing helps us to get the message out. So when people say, oh, well, there's nothing I can do, you can pick the phone up and phone somebody who lives on their own. You can speak to somebody that you've never met, an old person or a young child in a pushchair. You know, obviously safety, mother or dad there, because that person might be the only person that they speak to, because that's a whole new topic. The world is full of lonely people, and I'm supportive of, you know, the elderly, the abuse on the elderly now by their children who think they know better and disregard all of the values of the older person as they get a bit shaky and they don't be listened to. It's like we become invisible. So I'm an ambassador for anybody. And the abuse that's going off, okay, we don't smack our children. I'm not going into that. We don't smack our children. We don't chastise them. We don't punish them. There's more damage being done emotionally, psychologically, and the physical one. It's over and done with. I have brothers who say, our dad was a good one. He used to belt me I respected him because I knew where my boundaries were. Children of today don't know where the boundaries are because Google, we're all trying to tell them what to do. And I'm fortunate, not with all my grandchildren, with one grandchild in particular, two, and they say, Nanny, you don't tell us what to do, you listen. You don't try and control, you just guide. And my granddaughter of 18 said, I said, you're like one of my best friends. And she said, yeah, you are mine. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, if you're a grandparent or a parent, then, you know, I might not get paid for this, but what I get paid for is priceless in seeing I make a difference in the world. Yeah. If are there any more questions? And then we've got, say, 5 minutes, and then
okay. We've got Bon Tomac says, are you happy or are you free from the desire for happiness? Good question.
Happy and unhappy are in the human condition. So sometimes I can be happy, and something like if you lose somebody or somebody breaks into your house, that will cause unhappiness momentarily. You accept it, accept the unacceptable, gone. You don't stay in it. I'm much more aware of being content, having a peace within that supersedes any kind of happiness. See, I've had everything in the material way, and I now live in a rental in New Zealand, and this might be my last visit here. Hopefully not, because I want someone to headhunt me, and they can pay for me to have business class because it's really a long journey, and then I'll just turn up and just make a difference wherever. So happiness is about accepting yourself as you are, where you are. Contentment, not letting anybody take the peace, once you know who you are, away. And understanding that connecting to any sort of pain is one thing. Adding suffering to it by trying to change it or make it better, it's not going to happen. Accept the unacceptable.
So we've got a few more things over here. We've got a bit of a conversation going, I think, by preliminal. I nearly said it, I think. I'm Bonto Max. So, but I think the last bit that preliminal says, yes, like God's love, guide, spirit, intuition is best understanding of it. Yeah.
Okay, I can happily say, answering that, which is lovely. You're saying I desire inner peace, and I'm not desiring it anymore. I have it. And when it's there, it's there. And so desire is an important thing, to desire something that really is absolutely everything. So desiring inner peace is a real great intention, joy, the wisdom and joy of being, I wouldn't say helpful personally, that's just a personal slant. I'd say being supportive of others. I don't want to help you. I've had to learn not to help people because that fed me. So I support people who want to grow and send love to everybody anyway. How can they contact me? Okay, do you want to put this in?
You can, yeah. Can I put it in? Yeah, if you like. That's cool.
www. All lowercase, all S's, SUSuniversityoflife.com. That's wonderful. Yeah. So that's lovely. And if anybody wants to have a one-to-one with me, anything to go in the shop, buy any of my books, Amazon, or you can buy them from me online. Once I've got that sorted, it's not quite sorted, best to go to Amazon, Sue Gaskell. And what you've just said is, when I transferred to this other earth in Orion, I've been praying and wondering, how can there be more than one earth? There are thousands online saying the geographic changes and Mandela effects. Yeah. Yes, let's let God's love guide spirit intuition in your best understanding of it. Absolutely. And this is something I said, and I'll finish on that. This is something I made up. May God be your may love be your constant companion, and wisdom be your guide. That's the height of sensibility, emotional maturity. And once you can be an adult to another adult, then you've got everything. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that today. And sorry, it's just me, but Johnny and Bernie was also putting some questions in there. So thank you, Johnny and Bernie. Yay, it's good to be here. And yeah, so thank you everybody for watching, and thanks for the questions. And we'll see you very, very soon. And we'll do a little video soon with Sue about her book, which is called, let's get it once more. It's Eating Your Words, second edition. And again, it's available on Amazon. And we'll do a little bit of a longer interview where hopefully more in our planet tears will be there. Okay?
And Sue's University of Life, Facebook, YouTube. If you subscribe, that would be really great. Thanks a lot. Been lovely having this conversation.
Yeah. Good question. It's been great.
Brilliant. Yeah. And if you can be anything, be kind.
Love everybody. Bye bye now. And love you, Sue, from Johnny.
Oh, absolutely.
Love you, Paul. Love you to Johnny. Love and hope to speak to you soon, Sue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
And I like to know it's Bernie, top man, top bloke.
Absolutely.
Top bloke. All right, take care of yourself. Bye bye now. And turn off.